friends. This is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average babes come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A place where being yourself is the ultimate goal, where your opinion, your story, and your individual experience matters. Join me, your host B, and my guests for real and raw talks every week, laying it all out there so we can all help each other learn more, grow deeper, and evolve collectively. Now keep in mind, as a disclaimer, no one here is an expert and no one is giving any advice. This is strictly our opinions, thoughts, feelings, and for entertainment purposes only. Now with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome everyone, welcome to the Be Real Babe podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. I hope that you have a good time. And if you're a returning listener, watcher, supporter, thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for coming back time and time again. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandy. I am the host of the show, and today you guys are on episode 237, Being Real About Botox Injury, Part 6. You heard me correct, guys, Part 6. Now, if you're just joining in this episode in this time, just so you guys know, if you want to go back into Season 9, I have 5 other parts of the Botox Injury series, 5 other amazing women talking about their experience with Botox and their injury and their illness and their recovery. And today I have another powerhouse individual joining me from across the world to share her story with us, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear this. Again, it sounds so weird. I'm so excited for you guys to hear this, but this is a really good come-up story. This is one of the ones that actually shocked me the most when I was going through and learning about all the different girlies here. So really looking forward to you guys listening to this episode. But before we get into it, I just want to remind you, if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or Rumble, to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Leave your girl a review if you're feeling so kind. Help me get back up to full 5 stars. And if you are looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram or TikTok at the Be Real Babe or the Be Real Babe podcast. And if you want an episode yourself, you guys, I have a couple more left of this season, so you can email me at theberealbabe@hotmail.com or reach out on any social media platform. And don't forget, if you want more of my content, I am also on YouTube Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays is Keeping Up with Canada, where I go over weekly topics that I bring to you about the news of this crazy country. And then on Wednesdays, I bring some sort of story, whether that's from TikTok, Netflix, internet insanity, and we go through what is blowing up currently that week on social media, on the internet, to just kind of escape real life. And again, on Fridays, we have a podcast every Friday until the end of January. I cannot believe you guys, we're in season 10. I can't believe I'm going on 5 years of this. I thank you guys so much for sticking around, whether you just showed up now or you've been here the whole time or halfway through. I truly appreciate you guys so much, and I really appreciate that you're giving space to listen to these individuals, and I really encourage you to reach out to them and let them know how important it is that they share these stories so that we can start healing the world and healing each other and coming together. Okay, you guys, I'm going to shut up because this is an amazing episode and we really got to get to it. All right, babes, it's time to get on to the show, and with me today I have a very special guest joining me all across the world. I'd like to welcome Victoria to the show. Hey, babe, how's it going?
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm so excited to talk to you today and learn more about your story. Thank you for joining me.
You're very welcome.
I'm actually very sad that this is the reason why I connect to most of the guests on the show. To be honest, it's hard to be like, I am so excited to hear the shit that you went through. But I just know when you guys are ready to speak out, it's because you've got this fire in your belly to make sure that this doesn't happen to other people. And that's the part I get excited about. Not that what you've gone through, just so we're clear. But before we get into your experience with Botox, can you just tell the community just a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm Victoria. I'm 50 years old. I live in England. I am a senior executive leadership coach. So basically, I'm a therapist for business people, is how I would summarize it. I am a single mum, although my daughter's grown up and away at university now. I live with my father. So it's been a bit of a multi-generational household. And yeah, I love life.
I love that so much. And that's really interesting that you get to probably all see each other in different phases in your life, right? So it's like, you know, you got to start at home with your dad, and now he gets to be probably more included in your daughter's life. And I think the family unit's so beautiful. And I love to see as time is passing that people are doing that and coming back and living in the same home to support each other. Because family is just so important, right? And so it's really beautiful that And I'm sure as you're going through this, were you living with your father as well as you were going through this?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, so we started to live together during COVID.
Okay.
In fact, there was
Oh,
four generations at that time. There was my grandmother, there was my dad, myself, and my daughter.
oh,
So, and then unfortunately, my grandma passed away during COVID. But my dad
oh.
and my daughter, we've all stayed together, although she's living away now at university. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice that
Yeah.
we all take care of each other and look after each other. It's lovely.
Exactly, right? It's like going through stuff alone is super hard, but then at least knowing that you have family there. And obviously, during COVID, it was a very isolating time as well. So having
Mm.
everyone together is just kind of like, is when you got to look at the positives, like the positives if you got that extra time spent. That's what I tried to look back. I'm like, hey, let's pull out all the positives. Like me and my spouse, well, we went through that and we made it through. Now we're engaged and getting married next year. So, like where some people, like didn't, but it was just, yeah, you got to look at those positives. So that's really beautiful. And a special part of your story, I imagine being a single mom, those are things that are probably extra stressful is when you go down, even if your daughter is a full adult, doesn't matter. We don't like it. My mom has fibromyalgia. Let me tell you, I'm in pain when she's in pain. So to be able to have you guys all together and have that extra support and you not just living on your own, that's amazing. So that's so cool. And I think your title too, you like to travel. I think you said in your Never Talks that you like to travel quite a bit. So I imagine
Yeah.
this injury probably put you through a little bit of a stress in that area too.
It did. It did a little bit, yes.
Yeah.
So I had a trip booked. This is one of the reasons why what happened really.
Oh,
I was
okay.
just about to turn 50 and I'd booked a trip away with my father and my daughter to Thailand to celebrate my birthday over there. So I decided to have some more Botox before I left, and then obviously what happened. I did still make it on the trip though, luckily.
Oh, good. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, good. I knew as I was listening to your live, I was like, okay, there is some really good wins in this story too,
Oh
which is amazing. But I think yours also have probably the most like intense and darkest parts of your story. And so like, it doesn't surprise me that on the flip side, you're now experiencing like the brightness of that and all that. And I'm so glad you're able to go. So that's a good question to start with. So like, for yourself, you're saying you're 50, you wanted to get Botox. Is Botox something that was in your life before? Is this new to you? Or is this like 50 I'm starting? Or was this like something you've done for a while?
Yeah, no, it's something I've been doing for a while. Probably when it was first introduced into the UK, I was
Okay.
probably in my mid 20s, and it was
Okay.
very much kind of promoted as a preventative measure and being young and naive, perhaps. So I did start having it probably once every 6 months. It wasn't something that I did on a really regular basis. So once every 6 months, just around the eye areas and the frown areas. And yeah, I've been having it for 20 odd years and I've never ever had an issue up until this last time.
Isn't that crazy? So out of all the girls that have come on the show, it's been very different. You guys have a lot of similar situations, but also very different. So there's been girls that have been doing it for 10 years. You're the first one for like, that length of time. And it's really interesting to me that 25 years ago they were, because now I feel like baby Botox is like this new trend, but it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like perhaps 25 years ago, maybe they're just using a different word. Maybe it was like preventative and in those,
Yeah,
and now it's like we're keeking it up and making it a joke. It'd be like baby Botox. I'm like, baby toxin. Like, why is that? That's not a joke. That is,
no,
you know what I'm
no.
saying? So it's interesting. It's been not just here in the West, in the UK for that long too, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When it first came out, you could only have it prescribed by a doctor, and there
Okay.
were very few doctors. And I was lucky that I had a local doctor. So I went and I tried it. And I suppose at 25, you don't really have many wrinkles and things like that. But I did see a little bit of a difference, which is why I continued to have it. Then over the years, that regulation changed. So it didn't have to just be a doctor, it could be a nurse who was trained in injectables.
Okay.
And then it's only recently, and maybe say in the last 5 years here in the UK, it could be different. Was it then allowed for people who had not had training to inject? I think they do have to have a little bit of training, but I know it certainly wasn't as regulated as it was when I first started having it back in my 20s.
Yeah. And back then too, did you, and maybe you don't know now because obviously you didn't know that this was a thing. Did you notice any symptoms like anything other than like the Botox flu, like anything big that would have scared you away and been like, oop, my heart got palpitations this one time and I don't know why, like nothing.
Nothing, absolutely nothing, never.
Some people's bodies seem to just take this and some people have it the first time and it's like, no, you're done. That's why I think it's so interesting that we need to have these conversations with multiple experiences, because what I hear in the comment section is like, well, I've done it for 10, 20 years and nothing's happened to me. And it's like, congratulations. That is amazing. You should praise whatever God you pray to, because there's people that could do it one time or 25 years later. And obviously it was small amounts, like you said, and not that often. And then I wonder over time, is it body's accumulation of it? Environmental triggers? Is it just maybe some people it's immediately like, no, like I can't even wear like fake earrings. My ears immediately like grow over the back, like that's how sensitive my body is. So I could imagine someone like me, had I not heard about this or met Gretch and all that, I would definitely be one of the girlies that like immediately did. But for yourself, that's got to be hard to mentally wrap your head around, because you're like, well, I've been doing this for 20, 25 years. For myself, I would say it is safe and like effective, right? Like to my experience. And then all of a sudden, and that's what the girls kind of allude to, but it just takes that one time. And
Absolutely.
that one time, 360.
And I think as well, because of that, when I first started to feel poorly, I didn't attribute it to the Botox. I just thought there were, as we tell the story, it'll become apparent, but I never once for 1 second thought it would be what it was. Not for 1 second.
And why would you? A, no one's told you. And B, it's you've not had that experience. And you probably didn't know about Never Talks in that group, right? So it's not even like, I wouldn't expect anybody to understand. Any of the reactions are very similar to a lot of other things. And we hear that being dismissed. Like, you've got anxiety, maybe you have a neurological, like one of the girls was almost going to be deemed something with a neurological disease. That's like, you pretty much get forgotten about once you get that diagnosis. Like, it's like my mom's fibro, like you're just forgotten about and you're a problem and you're ever going to be a problem. We don't know. And that's super scary for people, I can imagine, as they're going through it. So just before we get into that day, just one more precursor to this. Like, what about like your health wise? Were you somewhat like of a healthy person? Like, do you react to things like me, or you're just like, no, girl, I'm solid like an ox?
Yeah, absolutely. I very rarely get poorly. Don't react to things at all. Really strong constitution. So yes, it knocked me for 6 a little bit getting as poorly.
Yeah. And on top of that, there's another layer that I just want to add for your probably anxiety to that, is not being in the medical side. And like, I will get into your story, but I heard they took care of you much better. But like here on the West, like people that don't have, like, let's say a bad experience with the medical side, very much trust them and don't know how to advocate for themselves, knowing that one doctor might not know about it and you're crazy. So you go home thinking you're crazy. But if you've, like myself, I got really sick off of birth control, something that is across the world, told is safe and effective. And I had no idea I was going to have fertility issues growing up. That was not something I was told at 16. Now, was it in that pamphlet? That book? Probably, but we didn't talk about it. Just like with yourself, we'll get into about informed consent. You sign but are you being told? Do you understand the mechanism? As scientists and not being scientists and all that, like, how would we? So that's really interesting to know. So you're going to your appointment, scheduled, normal. How long before your last one was it? Was it like a couple months? Were you still 6 months at this time?
Probably about 6 months. And I was probably 3 months away from my birthday and going on holiday. And I just mentioned to her, Edu, I've been going to my injector for a long time. I'd never had any problems. Again, as I say, I only ever really had it in the eyes and in the forehead. And I was just talking to her about turning 50 and how old that made me feel and what have you. And it was herself that suggested that maybe I should try the 7-point facelift with the Botox. So on that day, and I consented to it, not knowing what would have happened. Hindsight's a great friend, isn't it? So I consented to it. So she injected where she normally injects, but then she injected into my jowls, into my lips, into my nose, into my chin. So I had a lot more than I have ever had before. So, and as I say, that's fully consented. I signed the form. Here in the UK, you do sign the disclaimer, but when it comes to, and they do explain the risks to you, but it's one of those, isn't it? It's always the small print, and you always think that you're never going to be that kind of 0.1% that it happens to. So just I signed away happily. And yeah, had I known what I know now, I definitely wouldn't have done what I did.
Well, and that's my whole point, right? It's like, okay, we can sign consent forms, but I think people truly need to understand a consent form versus informed consent. This is a documentation. Informed consent is the explanation. And I don't know, in the UK, does it have a black box warning? Is that something
No, we don't have anything like that. No, nothing like that.
Okay, and so maybe, and I don't know, but like, wouldn't it be interesting to have information from the other side? Like, because here it's a black box warning, which makes me even more scared because people are injecting it with something that is a Google find to find that out. But over in the UK, it's like there's nothing. It doesn't even warn.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, that's a little scary. So it's even scarier out there because the injectors probably don't even know this then.
Yeah, I think they probably do. So
Okay.
it changed the way. Well, I say it changed. It didn't. I think a lot what has started to happen quite a lot in the UK up until very recently, when they've rechanged the regulations, was the procedure was you saw a doctor, they prescribed the Botox. They didn't have to necessarily be the one to inject you, but they had to prescribe it to you. And a lot of what has been happening here in the UK is that people are just buying the Botox and not getting that pre-prescription from a doctor. So you're just getting straight injected. You're missing out the doctor part. And that was making the Botox cheaper, which is why so many women have it, because the prices have come down, not knowing, they didn't know that you need an injector. So you need the doctor to prescribe the actual Botox.
That's so scary. That's just, again, it's playing with people's lives. And like, I guess my question for a lot of times is like when you hear Botox and neurotoxin, like just the word toxin, wouldn't that, as an injector, I'm not shading them, like make you want to learn a little bit about it? I don't know. I just, that's where maybe I'm just a crazy person. But even with my show, I always try to make sure, like, how is this being absorbed? How am I affecting other people with my words? That's not even affecting their, I mean, their mental health, but like their physical health, right? So just for me, I just kind of wonder, especially when we're in the medical sphere here, like, to at what point, like, is this isn't life-saving procedures from my understanding, right? And not to shade that, but it's just like, okay, if there's life-threatening procedure, that makes sense that it could have a life-threatening risk, like that risk reward, like, you know what I'm saying? But you guys should be able to, all of us should be, and I have informed consent now, so I know, but every person going into cosmetic, medical, whatever, should know, hey, by the way, you might react so bad that you end up in the hospital, you're almost dying, and you got to fight for the antitoxin. Fight in the West. I hear it might be a little bit easier to get in the UK, but you have to be at, like, on your deathbed to get this for one injection of Botox. Doesn't matter what kind, doesn't matter how long you've had it, and that's super scary. So you're going into the appointment, you got the whole, sorry, it just kind of made me, it means like when you bring your car in, they're like, let's do a 7-point inspection. Like, what, and what message is that giving you? Like, like, I don't know. It just, anyways, sorry. That's an experience. It just bothers me how when you go in, they're just constantly wanting to add more to you. And it's just like, I just wish we wouldn't do that. I wish it was patient led, where it's like, I've decided that I want to do this, not, hey, yeah, you're right. You're 50, so you should get all this.
Yeah.
I'd struggle not to punch someone in the face. No offense. Like, that's just where I'm at now, right? Like, if someone said that to me, I'd
Oh,
be like,
yeah. I read that.
right? It's okay. So you go in, you have somewhat of an idea that there could be side effects, but did you know, like, the side effects to what you had?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I
Okay.
thought my face would probably feel a little bit kind of stiffer for a couple of weeks, maybe a lot less movement. But having had it so often in the past, I sort of, you kind of know those peaks and troughs, don't you? So for the first couple of days, yeah, it feels a bit weird, and then you get used to it. Your muscles get used to it. So I had absolutely no way of knowing what was about to happen. Not a
Okay.
chance.
So we go in, we get our 7-point inspection. We have a whole face makeover. You probably come out feeling a little bit like, oh, come, just like, the first one. I can't imagine, but I imagine that feels like a lot. I'm terrified of needles, thank God. That's what stopped me the first time with Botox, is like, I can't do needles. And so what started happening after that? Was like an immediate, or was it like a slow burn?
It was a slow burn, really. So I'd had it on the weekend, on the Saturday,
Okay.
and then the following week I moved my daughter into university, and it was on that day I felt my lip was kind of freezing up and getting quite stiff, and I was struggling to kind of speak. And I didn't. It wasn't hugely noticeable, but it was noticeable to me. And then over the next day or so, it seemed to get progressively worse. But I had to go away to work at a conference where I was facilitating meetings and things like that. And this was on maybe the Wednesday, Thursday. That one side of my face had pretty much frozen up, and I thought I had Bell's palsy. I just didn't for one second think it would be the Botox, because I was by that point I was struggling to speak, which wasn't helpful when I was facilitating meetings. I came home from the conference on a Friday night, and the really strange thing was, and this is a big warning sign that, again, you don't realise, I just got some new prescription glasses for driving, and I couldn't see. My eyesight was terrible, and I really, really struggled with my vision on the way home, and I was so confused because like, these are my new glasses. I should put, I drove down here and I could see perfectly what's happened. Again, didn't think anything of it. Over that weekend, that was it. So I messaged the prescriber, not the prescriber, the injector on the Saturday morning and said, I sent her a video saying, this is what's happened to my face. Could it be the Botox? What's happening? So she said, oh, it could be. So if you've got an electric toothbrush, oh God, if you have an electric toothbrush, just put it over the area, because as I say, it was only like at one point, like one side. Just put it over the area and it'll help the Botox disperse. So I was like, oh, right, okay. Did that. Nothing really happened. And then progressively, I started to feel unwell, really achy, like I had the flu. And I thought, oh, on top of this, now I'm getting a virus. So I was in bed. I think on the Monday morning, I woke up and I was just in a really bad state. I couldn't swallow. By that time, it was working its way down, so I couldn't swallow. I was really struggling to breathe. My blood pressure was through the roof. My oxygen saturation levels were really low. My dad has COPD, so we have all like the devices.
Oh, thank God.
And I can't really put into words, apart from I felt like I was dying. That's exactly how I feel. Very rarely go to the doctors. So I need to see a doctor. Something is really, really not right here. I managed to get an appointment with my GP. In the UK, that's really, really difficult to do, by the way. So we
Same in
usually,
Canada.
however, I was really lucky. The GP saw me that day. He went in, I explained what I'd been doing. And I just happened to mention that I'd had some Botox the week previously. And that gentleman saved my life because he just took one look at me and said, I'm calling you an ambulance now. I think you've got iatrogenic botulism. So
Holy
he picked
shit.
on it straight away. And I must admit, even when I was in the doctor's office, I was laid on the bed. I could feel myself. I was just going. So the ambulance came to the doctor's surgery, took me straight down to the hospital. And I was seen there. Bit of a long story short, I ended up being in the resuscitation for 4 or 5 hours because I was becoming so poorly with it. During that time, they were obtaining the antitoxin, thankfully. However, because it is rare in the UK, nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew where to go. They had to ring all the large university hospitals down in London to try and speak to some professor who is an expert in it. None of the medical staff had ever experienced it, not known what to look out for. Had I not seen the GP that day, and I think I'd just taken myself down to A&E, I think very much like some of the other people that you've dealt with, you'll just get turned away. It's fine, it's in your head, whatever. Don't think anybody would have picked up. Thank God he was such a clever man and did what he did, because he quite literally saved my life.
Oh my gosh, I hope he knows that, because that, you're
Oh
right.
gosh.
It's so many people, especially if you're saying in the UK it doesn't have a black box warning. So maybe some GPs here can go and they can Google it, just like
Yeah.
I did, and see black box warning immediately, like, okay, which again, I don't know why they don't do and why they dismiss them. But again, most girls, when they're going in, to your point, don't know. They have no idea. And it's just like so happened to say that you're, and for you, that's even more shocking that you were like, oh yeah, I got Botox, because it is something that you got so long. It's almost like, like you're having coffee kind of thing. Like it's not something that you would think that is the reason for it, but by mentioning that, like truly, like if people don't believe in God, sometimes I do have to say, like, there are moments where things get whispered to you or come to your forefront that, or put people in your space that get you to that next level, because you probably like, oh, you just have anxiety, oh, you probably have a virus, or
Yeah,
and it's just
exactly.
like there's so many symptoms that are similar to it, but it's the progression of it, because if you look at it, it's poisoning, right? So like that's why I find interesting, it's going through your body and it's systematically shutting you down over
That's
time,
exactly. It starts from the
right?
head down, and now when I look back, I can see that kind of that progression. So, like a few days later, when my shoulders and my neck were aching, which is when I thought I had the virus, and then obviously when I started with respiratory failure, it's kind of getting down into areas that you really don't want it to. So I was so lucky that I saw him when I did, and that he identified it and he called me the ambulance, because I dread to think what would have happened if he hadn't. So
100%. And I hope that he's sharing that. And I hope the community
mm,
there that happened is, I think you'd mentioned that the staff had said like everybody learned something new today.
yeah,
And
it
it's
is.
really fucking shitty that it had to be through your experience, but at least that hopefully sparked something in that area. And
Absolutely.
hopefully the conversations, if it's even just like, oh my God, I had the craziest shift today. You have no idea you know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
sparking the conversations, because so many people will tell these injured that it's just, it's just whatever. But like you were like nearly on your deathbed. If you didn't get that antitoxin, I imagine
Well,
it could have like shut your lungs down and put you in like a respiratory, I don't know, I'm not medical, but like I imagine it would shut your breathing down. Is
it
that fair to
shuts your
say?
breathing down, puts pressure on your heart, and then you end up with heart failure.
And
Yeah.
had and in the States it's very hard for them. I haven't had anybody on from Canada yet, but in the States I know it's very difficult. I think when you get to your time, that's when they would release the antitoxin here in the States, but it's also very heavily FDA covered. Like it's very, which blows my mind that the thing that can cause that is so wildly injected, but the thing that can actually save your life from it is so highly guarded. And so can we go through that for with you? So you go to the ambulance, they're like, okay, they talked to the professionals, we're educated, we're getting the antitoxin. How long was that from when they decided to get that antitoxin to when it administered to you?
12 hours.
Holy shit. So you're probably going through it in your brain too. That's
I
probably
think I think at that time I just felt so poorly. So when it's all a bit of a blur, and
fair.
I know I was in the resuscitation room, and that was quite difficult as well because in the UK, well, in this particular hospital, there are bays. And during that time, they'd brought a woman in who was having a heart attack, and she was literally in the bed next to me. I was
Oh,
separated
shit.
from her by a curtain, and she ended up passing away. They couldn't save her, so I had to.
Mentally deal
Yeah,
with
I
that as
really,
well.
I think that's what's one of the things that has struck me most and has stuck with me most is because that could very easily have been me.
100%. And that's not something like at the time you're trying not to go to the worst case
Yeah,
scenario, but when the
yeah,
worst case scenario is physically in front of you, like I don't know who has the mental capacity to just block that out. Like
yeah.
I definitely wouldn't. I'm an absorber, so I absorb everything. So, but like you said, in the time, like your body kind of probably does put you through this like numb phase, and I think you mentally said that where you're just like, because you got
I
to
think
get through it.
I was just focusing on trying
No.
to breathe, focusing on. I just felt so poorly. I've never felt anything like. Well, I've never been that poorly, and I don't.
Very fair.
Like I say, I don't think I realised how close I came. And one of the issues is they had to. I don't even know where they got it from, but there was no antitoxin locally, so they had to get somebody to drive it to the hospital so they could administer it to me.
And
So again,
I'm
it's one of those things. And ironically, the GP that was the one that identified this, when we've had conversations subsequently, he said it's a weapon of warfare, and it is. It's a weapon of warfare, and you'd think that it would be a lot more readily available than it is.
or you think that we wouldn't be in doing this.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely. If it's a weapon of warfare, that's you know,
like
yeah,
can we
it might
pay
help.
for marketing for like pro aging to like combat the anti aging, thing? Because at the end of the day, and it's not to discredit, I understand everybody. I mean, I'm covered in tattoos, y'all. Like I have my insecurities too, and I would be doing Botox had I not met Gretch 4 or 5 years ago. But what bothers me is that the messaging that women have to do it, and if we could just reverse that, could we like, and everyone's going to do it for their own, I'm sure, but the pressure, the constant marketing of it, and if you're not aware of that repetitive marketing and what it could do to your stories in your head, the thoughts that come in, you're thinking, yeah, this is what I think. But when you start diving into sometimes that repetitive messaging is actually what you think your inner thoughts are and your wants are, but they're not. They're just to sell you something. And so that's where it pisses me off because it's not like, okay, for those that get it for medical reasons, I understand you have risks and rewards there. If you're living every day with a migraine, I'm sure those risks are like, I don't care because I'm not living a quality of life. Okay. But
Yeah,
to push this stuff to look younger, which again, I get it. We're all doing stuff. I'm not shading that. But for this high of a risk, it needs to be talked about. It
yeah.
needs to be like, babe, like you need to go understand the risk, come back in 2 to 3 weeks after you've truly thought about it. Like, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we taking a part of women's health and being like, mentally, is this you? Or are you being sucked in by this marketing machine telling you you have to
I
be
think
beautiful?
I think it's a bit of both, really, isn't it? I
Yeah.
look back and in my early 20s, you are, um, attractive things. It's just kind of thrown at you all the time, isn't it? That you've got to look good, you've got to look young. And it's even worse now, I think, with you've got is it Kris Jenner with the facelift, and nobody
What
wants to
happened to
grow.
her?
I know, and it's just, so even girls who are in their early 20s, they start recognizing and aspiring to be looking kind of 20-30 when they're in the 50s and 60s, and it's not natural. And and yes, I was a victim of that marketing ploy, but I don't think it's just the people selling the Botox, it's just the industry, the beauty industry, and social media and all of those things just absolutely will not let women grow old gracefully.
No, and filters and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
that's what my point is. And like, obviously I'm turning 39 this December, so a little bit decade before you. But in my time, it's like when I turned 16 and stuff, that's where Playboy Bunny and MTV and Much Music and all of the very in your face
Yeah.
fashion and stuff. Before, it was like not to be that way, and I know you probably went through that pressure at 25 when you're doing that, and I was 16. So the messaging has been, since I've been a teenager,
Yeah.
long blonde hair, big blue boobs, blue eyes,
Yeah.
and like, so then I'm looking at myself, no chest, like, very European looking in different ways, dark hair, dark eyes. And I'm like, oh my God, I'd have to literally change my whole entire self to be the standard of beauty.
Yeah,
but I have
absolutely.
combated that for so long. And then our generation had much more TV, much more movies, much more access, much more magazines. But this generation, we can at least separate saying, those are celebrities, those are
Yeah.
rich people, those are people in their 40s and 50s doing that. Now we have teenagers filtering their face and their noses and all of that, going into surgeons and saying, giving me this filtered look. And like, again, each your own, but I just really encourage people, because I've noticed as I've aged, because I haven't done these things, let's say like breast implants,
Yeah.
very grateful that I also fell down the BII rabbit hole when I started looking at doing it. And again, afraid of surgery and needles, so that really held me back, and money. But now I'm so happy that I have naturally small boobs. I watch like a bunch of my friends now having to get explants and all that. So, and again, I'm from the 90s eyebrows, as you can see. So for me, I very much look at trends as like, it's probably going to change again.
Yeah.
So for me, that's always I've kind of been like the trends. Like, I'm always like, oh, you're reading that, I'm not gonna. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so I feel very blessed in that, but it's very much pushed. And the amplification at this age for these kids coming in their 20s now, on their phones, social media, like, do you, and having a daughter, is that something that like you have watched and get scared about as well?
A little bit. I'm really lucky that she's so natural. She doesn't like to, she's 19 now. She doesn't like to wear makeup. She's got beautiful hair, but she's always been like, just really, she was a bit of a tomboy when she was growing up, but she's just a natural beauty. Even now when she goes out, kind of a little bit of lip gloss, maybe a little bit of blush on her cheeks, but
little
that's
glitter,
it.
right?
That's it. That's absolutely it. So she completely embraces the natural beauty,
I
which I'm
love
so
that.
pleased about.
Because it is scary for that age right now, right? Like, we've got
Yeah.
20-year-olds, like, and not being that way, but like some of these girls, are in their 30s and their 20s that are reacting and stuff like that. And it's like, one of the girlies, she was about to get married and all that, and she's like, I can't even get out of bed. And it's like, again, people need to do what they want. I'm all informed consent. If you hear that and you're like, it's not me, that's your choice. But at least if something happens to you with a lack of knowledge, right?
Exactly. I know. So, me going, because we've not really talked about this, but I ended up with the feeding tube for 3 months.
Yes,
So,
carry on with your story.
yeah.
So you got the antitoxin. It's happening.
Oh, yeah.
12 hours later. Now what?
And then I spent a week on the neurological ward. And because I was kind of paralyzed, really, I couldn't swallow. They put a feeding tube in, and I had to be fed by a tube for 3 months until it completely wore off, because I couldn't chew properly and I couldn't swallow properly, and there was a high risk of choking. So again, that wasn't a pleasant experience, having to not being able to eat. I literally didn't eat for 3 months. Only towards the end, when they gradually start introducing, then you're having to eat like soft foods and kind of puddings and things like that,
Baby
and
food.
you gradually get your sensation and your your chewing action back. So that's it's not pleasant having a tube down your throat. And I coach people, so I talk a lot for my job, and I've got a really sensitive gag reflex. I was just like retching constantly. It was horrific.
And
So
especially your job being vocal. So, okay, so sorry. So you were in a hospital for a week and
I
then
was
you
in
got
for a
to
week.
live with the tube outside of the hospital?
Yeah, so they trained me because I was just I don't do hospitals. I can't sleep there. I was just like, please
Girl,
let me go home.
you don't need to explain that.
And so I had to carry a machine around with me that you hook your feeding tubes up to. So they had to teach me how to change all my tubes and things like that. And then eventually they let me home. But I mean, I was very, very lucky. The NHS here, as much as the Brits complain about it, it is incredible. So I had a speech and language therapist training me to try and get me to talk again. And because obviously a lot of the muscles are frozen, so that can cause long-term issues. So I worked with a speech and language therapist, dietitians, the neurologist. So I was really lucky that I had this amazing team that used to come to the house and make sure I was well looked after. But who knew that it would be 3 months before they could remove the tube and I could go back to living some sort of normal life.
And that's with the antitoxin too, right? Like
Yeah,
that's like, and I think and maybe you can explain that like you did just in case people didn't see, which I encourage everyone to go listen to the live on Never Talks because Gretch does such a good job. She's such a good science girly and I'm just not, and I'm just listening to her. I was like, she said she's not going to be good at podcasting. I was like, girl, you're so good at it. You don't even know. But she
yeah,
just has more of the like scientific part of it that I like. So I do really encourage everyone to go. I'll share it and post it on my story as well at the same time so people could see it because she can explain more the science part. But for what I got from it is it's like it's a slow drip and they have to hold you for a certain time because you could also have a reaction to the antitoxin too. Is that fair? So that whole week you're probably also unsure of what the heck is going on and how your body's going to react. Like grateful all these people are coming, but I'm sure mentally and like your spirit you're just still a little bit like, great, I got the antitoxin, but now what does this mean? And what do you mean I have to be here for a week? And what do you mean 3 months?
yeah.
Especially with the job that you have. Like I work in Excel all day. I could go on meetings. I probably, people would probably like it if I didn't talk as much, So that would be wouldn't be the worst. But for yourself, you're training people, you're in contact with people like that also probably made a huge difference for your job too, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it changes the way. I mean, you lose your self confidence really because you've got a tube kind of going, up your nose and down your face, and you'd just be going out to the shops and things like that, and people stare at you. And I mean, in one respect, they assume that you're really, really poorly, which I was, but
Yeah.
and they're very kind to you, and they let you go in their place and things like that. But you do get stared at constantly. I was very aware. I tried not to go out if I didn't have to, just because I didn't want people looking at me. Or if I was out having, dinner with my daughter or something like that, I'm sat there, everybody else is eating, and I've got my little machine that's kind of whirring away. And, it's not a pleasant thing to have to go through. At the time, I think I was being quite stoic and I was like, just get on with it, get on with it. It was only after it had finished and I'd gone away on this amazing holiday with my family, did it hit me. I think I was one of these, like, just get up in the morning, just get through the day, get through the day, get through the day. Then it hit me like a brick, and I think I had to do quite a lot of soul searching.
Absolutely. Well, too, and like they always say that your body holds I can't remember the saying, right? But it holds the trauma and holds everything, right? So as your body is trying to physically heal and get back, it's like then your brain, it's like it can release the emotional part from the
That's it.
body and all of that. Or if you don't do that, I feel like people then store it and then it manifests into some other illness or
Yeah.
usually chronic illness is, when people have big traumas and they're not dealing with it. And it's just
Mhm.
like that get on, because we're in such a hustle culture, especially moms these days, right? Like I'm just a cat mom, so I don't got that kind of pressure. I do have pressure to feed them on time, I'll tell you that. But and a big point too, and I always bring up in every episode, so the listeners are probably so tired of hearing this. Moms are so good at dismissing these things because
Yeah.
it's chalking it up to, well, I'm a mom and I'm tired. Very fucking, you guys don't have sleep. You work so hard, you take care. I can barely take care of myself, let alone another human. So it's very valid to be like, oh, well, this, that, and the other. But it's like, no, it's pushing yourself. It does hold itself into trauma. And if you can't release that, it's just
Yeah.
going to hold and you're just going to get sick. So it's a good thing that you went and been able to enjoy that trip. And it didn't happen on that trip, but your body was probably like, okay, now you're safe. You have nothing forward.
Yeah.
Let's just let it go. And now I think that's good because then you have time to actually address
Yeah,
it,
I
right?
had processed it, but I think as well, one of the things you don't consider, and it was only in conversations that I had with my daughter, is the trauma it put on my family as well, seeing me. So my dad saw me in the resuscitation room and was there with me. And so he had to see me in that state. And then my daughter had to see me in that state as well. And as I say, in subsequent conversations, I didn't realize the impact it'd have on them as well, emotionally, seeing me so poorly. So,
Man,
that's
that's
that.
hard.
And I'm sorry that I put them through that. Not that I did it intentionally and
No.
what have you, but
There's
yeah.
mom guilt again. Shocking. You guys are the worst. I get it. I get it. But, and of course, because they don't want to see that. And like at that point, they're probably also like, no idea it was a Botox. What do you mean you're getting an antitoxin? What do you mean she's got to be in this resuscitation room that's called for a week? Like that is all because then you're just like, you don't know what's happening. You don't want to prepare for someone passing away. But at the same time, you're like, is that the what's happening here? And like even coming out of it, this is so unknown. And I think that's one thing that people don't understand when they kind of just dismiss this injury is the mass amount of unknown within the medical industry and just in the public, so that you are kind of looked at like you're crazy or this can't be possibly it. And then you go to share your story, and this is where I fight trolls in the comments. They're like, well, I've had it forever. That can't possibly it. And you're like, but girls, I also have had it forever and it happened, right? So
and I think I'm not grateful that it happened to me, but I like to try, and a bit like you, I like to take the positives out of everything. Yes. And the city that I live in has a large medical school here, and they used to bring the students around to come and talk to me, so they learn how to recognise the symptoms and treatments that were available. So, I was a bit like a guinea pig, but I didn't mind, because if it just made the medical profession more aware, then that could only be a good thing, right?
I would hope so, because that's where you're turning to, right? Like it would be nice. Obviously, we want injectors to know, we want clients to know, but when something bad happens, you want the medical, because your injectors, I'm sorry, are not going to help you. They're going to tell you predominantly, like I'm shocked that yours even said like, yeah, it could be, because 95% of the time it's like, no, it absolutely isn't. And there's actually, because some people have sharing their stories, injectors that have come out being like, I had no idea. I got myself educated, and I won't be doing this, or at least I have the idea. Like, I'm not of a person. It's like people should want to do what they can with their body. If you want to, like, I'm a stoner. Okay. I'm aware, like I have energy drinks. Those are my bad vices. So I never we can't all be perfect. I just want people to be informed, right? Because like, I don't know if that would have changed your mind. Maybe. But even if it didn't, at least when that happened, you would have been immediately like, no, this is the Botox. And you could have, not that you had that hard of pushback from the medical industry, but if you had maybe known the couple days before, right? Like maybe you wouldn't have had to be in there for that whole week or 3 months. I don't know. Like maybe if it didn't get down to here, like that's a valid thing. So it's like, if you keep doing it, at least and at least to come to Never Talks, because there's an amazing community to help you. So I guess so let's jump into that, because we love to shout out Gretch here. Where did Never Talks come into your life through your experience? Was that like at the beginning? Had you known about her before?
It was actually whilst I was in the hospital, because obviously it's so unknown, isn't it? And we were talking about the medical profession before, and I will come back to Gretchen in a second. Ironically, one of the nurses who was on the neurological ward, she injected herself with Botox, and she'd never even heard of it. She came and sat by the bed one day, and she's like, I'm going to tell you, I don't inject anybody else. I inject myself. I've never known that anybody this has happened to, nor that this could happen. And that was a nurse. So I was in the hospital, and obviously, they were saying this iatrogenic botulism. I'm like, what the hell is that? Started Googling it, went onto Facebook, found the group. And I'd literally, I think I was maybe a day or two. And so I just reached out. I put a post on there just reaching out, saying, can anybody help me understand what on earth is going on here? What can I expect? And that's when Gretchen reached out, and we ended up talking whilst I was in the hospital.
Oh, she's such an angel.
Like, amazing.
She's
amazing.
Yeah, and that doctor too, like you ever talk to him, like just on behalf of like a Botox injury advocate, please let him know that that's amazing. If he ever wants to come on and share his part of it too, like how he knows like the doctor side, I'd love to hear it. But I think for me, the most important thing is hearing from individuals like yourself who went through it. You don't have an agenda here. You're not a content creator trying to blow up on it's real life stuff, and you want to share this because you feel like there's a duty to let the younger generation know, like, or anybody older too, because you're targeted. It's not just younger girls. You want to target that because they're a little bit more susceptible, I feel.
Yeah,
That's hard to
yeah.
say though, because it's easy to be like, oh, I don't care about that because I'm not aging yet. Like, I get so many people. Like the other day, someone was like, oh, I thought you were 29. I was like, oh, girl, I'm turning 39 this year. Like, thank you, But when you're in it, and like I have all of the wrinkles, like I work in Excel. That's my life. Okay, this is what my face is. I'm a new industry too. So I feel like it's somewhat targeted at me, but I also feel like, as you get into your 50s and 60s, like that was targeted from when I was a kid, because that's the only people when I was a teenager who were getting it really was people that were in their 40s and 50s. And that age group, your age group right now, has been targeted since conception of Botox, I feel like. Is that fair to say?
I would absolutely say. And I think, again, it's the informed consent, isn't it? If somebody had said to me quite explicitly, there is a potential this injection could kill you, then I would have thought twice about it. But nobody ever said those words. They might have been kind of written in small print, but nobody explicitly says that. And if I'd chosen to go ahead after that, then, I've only got myself to blame ultimately. But it's that not knowing, and that not really making people aware of what can go wrong. And I know that in the UK now, they are really tightening up on the regulations, because we had a big spate over here not too long after me, actually. But I think, I don't really know the full details, so I don't want to speculate. But I think there was 7 from the same clinic, whether it was about batch or whether they'd bought it on the black market. I don't know, so please don't quote me on any of that. But since then, there has been a move towards much tighter regulation of the injectors and the actual product itself. And that can only be a really, really positive thing. But it's multidimensional, isn't it? You've got to start with, can we not change the narrative to normalize aging? It's the natural part of the process. In
It's
cultures,
really a blessing.
all the women are kind of admired and revered because of their age and of their wisdom. And where I feel that in the Western culture, we're just kind of, I don't know, force isn't the right word, but conditioned into thinking that you've got to be, looking as young as you possibly can to have any visibility. And that's so wrong. We need to normalize aging.
Yeah, and that's why I will be a person that goes on social media first thing in the morning, where I have my bags on my eyes and my ring. Like
Yeah.
Any insecurities I have up, I have them. I don't think that I don't go, a little injection, $100 probably take away this line or my smile lines. But as I was sitting here and I was actually getting ready, before, and I was just like, oh yeah, your smile lines are getting developed. I'm also, again, a stoner, so I'm aware. But then I just thought, what is so wrong with the fact that I smile and laugh so much? Like,
absolutely,
why is that a negative thing to say? Oh, your smile lines, or like, yeah, because I laugh a lot and I'm funny and enjoy life, and like I've been through stuff. I have been through hell, and this shows that. And I know we could probably minimize them, and there's things that we could do to look good, feel good. I get that, but there's a line of look good, feel good, and look good. You're exploiting me. And I think that's the thing where we talked about, right, where your daughter, and it's so cool because my brothers are in their early 20s and they hate social media. And not that they hate women with all the extra, but like, I remember growing up, they'd be like, oh, I want a girlfriend that doesn't wear any makeup. And I felt very proud that, like, I hope that I kind of like cultivated that for them to see a woman older, 10 years, 12 years older than them, emanating natural beauty or whatever, or trying to fight against the marketing. I think that's what it is. It's like, you don't get to tell me. I'm really stubborn. Like, you don't get to tell me what I get to look like. I've had enough of it. I fell for it for my teens, and you don't get to do that anymore. And I think what I encourage women, especially those that like maybe have that, empowering thing, truly understand if these things are empowering. Like, I get it that you get to do whatever you want with your body. I fully understand that empowerment. But what is exploiting you on that, right? Like you said, like, I love that your daughter just does it. Like, I like that, like a glitter, a little glitter, right? And I wish that I would have done that. I wish myself, I would have got like a couple little tattoos. I'm not ever going to regret what I do. But at the same time, when I look back at Brandy that got this, she wanted to cover her body. She didn't want anybody to look at her. And I probably got massive heavy metal issues from that. And it probably led to not great things in my health because I wasn't informed. But I think that's what it is for me, is that I feel like I was also a very big victim to this marketing ploy of you need to look a certain way to be beautiful. And I just kind of want to be like, well, I don't want to be beautiful then. If it's by your standards, then I don't want to be it. And I just hope that I feel like your daughter's generation is actually starting to fight against that. I feel like between 25 and 40, they've got this new hold on us. But I feel like the 20-year-olds, the ones getting out of school now, are starting to see the damage and the overconsumption that us millennials are dealt with, and this sickness that we've been in. And they're like, okay, we need to go to the gym, drink water, skincare. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Do you notice that? Is that fair?
Healthy. I look back to how I was at her age, and oh my gosh, I was before she became a teenager, just like, oh, I know what's coming, and it's never come. But she's just like you say, she's so healthy, and that can only be a good thing. And I'm so proud of that generation that they are fighting back against it. I think they're becoming quite wise and skeptical about things. They don't know what to believe anymore because there's artificial intelligence and all those kind of things. So I think having that authenticity is really important to them, or it seems to me that way, that's becoming the norm rather, as you say, the people in the 20s who just so conditioned.
Yes. And the uniqueness, like your individuality is being celebrated more, where I feel like, listen, I think the 90s, that was like full embrace of there was everything out there. I feel like the 90s, and then somehow we turned into the 2000s. Maybe there's a conspiracy lining up with that. We hit the 2000s, and I feel like we started this, like, I want to say plastic bubble, where then you had to look like Barbie and you had to look like, so that's one reason why I personally haven't done plastic surgery or Botox is because I was worried about losing my individuality. And that everyone's looking to look the same. Like all these people, no shade to anyone, that's what you want to look like, but everyone's bringing the same picture into their surgeons to all look the same. And I always kind of like that I didn't look like everybody else. Like as much as I hated it, but I kind of loved it too. I was like, well, that makes me stand out a little bit, right? And I'm really glad that I was really aggressive with that. And I'm also just afraid of everything. Like, because I have birth control, any medication I have, I get really sick. So to me, it's like anything I put on my body or in my body, I know I'm going to react. However, if I didn't have those experiences, I'd probably be over-consuming everything, right? And so it's, right?
And I've not had any Botox, obviously, since then, and nor will I ever now. So just watching my face go to where it should be, it's really hard, and I hate myself for it. Looking in the mirror, and you're there with the jazz, and you're lifting it up, and you're thinking, oh, and you see like the crepey neck,
turkey neck,
and I'm like, and I'll catch myself, and my self-confidence slumps, and I have to have a word with myself. I had to give my head a wobble, go to the mirror, have a little chat with myself, say, get a grip, Victoria, you are 50 years old, it is normal. But that's how deeply ingrained it is in me that it's like, oh my god, it's shocking that it's like that. It's so sad. It makes me so sad.
Well, and it's coming from every angles, right? It's like, hey, maybe on TV. Okay, well, I'm going to turn TV off. And they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to scroll on social media. Well, shit. Okay, well, I'm going to go out in real life. And it's like, I'm in a town that's like, we call it California. So it's very hippie, but there's some like California vibes here. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm in Silicon Valley here too. Like, and so it's before we could escape it. We could see natural stuff. And even to the point of like, we haven't even discussed like when it comes to Botox, what that does, like you're saying, you're I want to relate to people that put frozen stuff to get their tattoos, where it's like, okay, that numbing cream might be good, but the minute that numbing cream comes off, you're having full pain of that tattooed thing going into your body. And I feel like with some of these things too, like plastic surgery is a bit different, because I think like once you have plastic surgery, it doesn't change as much. But things like Botox or fillers, like I always caution women, like, how you blow up a balloon and it gets to that full, and then you stop blowing it up, that balloon's going to have the wrinkles. So are you continually going to have to do that? So where's it going to be? Like, I'm glad you stopped now too, because where would the accumulation be to your face? Like after time, and lips after time of having those, what we don't know yet, right? So are you going to have to, like, I'm sorry, maybe that's what happened to Kris Jenner. Maybe the overdone fillers and Botox did too much to the point where she had to get a full blown facelift, not just a Botox one, right? And it's like, be aware that continual use could have to lead you to plastic surgery, and then what, and then what, and then what, and that, who could afford that in this economy? I don't know about UK economy, but
definitely not in the UK. Definitely not in the UK.
I could spend that $100 on so many other things, but like, so I feel like it's coming at us at every angle. And my point being is like, if you're doing it for so long, that's another thing that people have to understand. To your point, you haven't seen your face like that. So now, and we know as aging, it's going to change as well, more than we did in the first like 20 to 30, 40 to 50. I imagine as it goes, it's going to change more. Now, do you have to feel like you maybe have to do double the work of that mentally because it was never something on your mind?
I think
They're
it's
not
just
double
some,
the work, but just different.
yeah, I think it's just coming to terms with it, isn't it? I mean, it's a psychological process that, you know, you have your Botox, so you think that you're okay. You think, oh, right, okay, I'm preventing, they're not as bad as they would be. And yeah, I suppose you do have to do a lot more work because it's there and you're raw, and there is, it's embracing that, the natural look, when you have had 25 years of just doing a little tweak and just, like getting rid of my 11s.
Yeah.
Now when I go and look in the mirror, my 11s are there every single time. So people,
They're
I
friends.
know when I was due for a top up, because people say, "Oh, you're looking tired." I'm like, right, okay, I'm due for a top up. So yeah, so having to stare at them quite literally in the mirror and then deal with that. So it's just, I suppose it's just reprogramming my brain to go, there, you're 50, it's going to happen. Get over yourself, Victoria.
Absolutely. And then also, I don't think there's anything wrong of being like there's a bunch of people that do like face acupuncture, or they
Yep.
start drastically looking at their inner health. Like, what can I do on the inside so that my skin is emanating on the outside? Is there
Yeah.
other modalities and alternatives? But again, because we're offered something that's a very quick, easy, safe
Yeah.
solution, why the heck not? Why? And I'm not saying this you, but like in my head, I'm always like, sometimes I used to be very microwave, like I need it now. And I didn't think about, so it's just like, there are ways to maybe have age gracefully as you
Yeah.
can, but there might be a little bit different. We're changing your diet, or like, it's like, I was saying, when people are saying I'm tired, I'm like, have I slept? Like, it's rude to say, we shouldn't say it, but at the same time, I'm also like, have I? Good question. I don't think I have. Like, drinking water, like, where's your stress management? And I love people that do like the Chinese medicine that read your face. And it's like, when you're old, and I've had Terry Fox on the show before. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he does face acupuncture. I'll send you the episode. You probably really love it. And he does like face acupuncture and practices Chinese medicine. And we talk a lot about like interpersonal relationships with your face. And so, like, let's say new moms that are getting Botox in their face and they have babies and they're not expressing, what does that like, is that stalling them in their understanding of facial expression, social cues and stuff like that too, right? And so
Yeah,
it's like, what are
absolutely.
the people are coming to the more like, what are the natural ways, what are the traditional ways to support our body, because our skin is going to be a reflection of what's going on inside. But we're not told that. We're never talked about nutrition when it comes to any sort of health, right? So I feel like it's really cool seeing where I'm saying like your daughter's generation is like lemon water, Pilates, like yoga, like really doing the things to set up their bodies so that they can naturally age the best that they can, the healthy that you can. Where my generation, it's like extra fast food, sodas, every new, like, we're the like guinea pigs for all new products, you know what I mean? And we did like Calgon spray with the glitter. Like, I think I breathed in so much spray as a kid. Like, I feel like I'm not going to be shocked when they tell me I'm sick later in life. I'm like, yeah, it's the Calgon spray. Like, and you think about all the consumption of those things. And I'm just really
Yeah.
glad that the generations after, seeing our kind of mid generations between the two, where we got, because it was new. Your generation, like Mary Kay and all those things, they started coming in and makeup, and that was new and exciting. Then it went to an extreme, and then now we're seeing everybody sick, right? So I think it's really cool. And again, it has to be leaders like you sharing your story. So just want to go back. So after you got your 3 months,
Mhm.
you got the tubes out, and then did you like immediately starting feeling better, or was there still time like after that you still were recovering?
So I think once the tubes were out, I was a lot better. And I think I'd had time to process it. My face, again, because I'd worked with a speech and language therapists, they'd been giving me loads of exercises to do to make sure that, because obviously if certain parts of your face aren't working, that affects other muscles. So it was all about kind of trying to maintain as much movement as I possibly could, given the circumstances. And I think I was quite lucky. I do heal quickly, and I think I was quite lucky. I don't seem to have any ongoing kind of issues that I'm aware of. My hair is thinning, but I'm a menopausal woman, so could it be to do with that? And I think this is the thing, isn't it? It's that, especially when you're 50, you're going through so many different changes. It's difficult to know what to attribute. And the neurologist did say that, it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly what it is. If it is the Botox that's making you kind of shed your hair. but thankfully I appear to have made a full recovery. Whether there'll be any issues further down the line, again, I don't think anybody knows.
No.
He said it could manifest itself in different ways in the future, but we can't predict that.
No.
So thankfully, I feel like I've made a complete recovery, both physically and mentally. But it's been a hard journey to get there, and I think again because I'm stoic, it was a bit of a battle.
That's very
I can't,
fair.
yeah, I couldn't let it hold back my life. My daughter's, I'm an empty nester. I can go backpacking around Costa Rica and Panama for a month like I did a few months ago. So I didn't want to let it stop me. I was like,
Oh,
right, okay, now I know how precious life is and how easily things could have been different. I am going out there and I am going to make the most of what I've got left.
yes, and turning that into like a beauty. Yeah, like that's what I just hope for everyone. And I know, like you said, everyone's journey is different, and some people it takes a little bit longer to heal.
Yeah,
But I think at the end of it, all of you are feeling the same thing. Like, A, never doing that again. B, I'm
yeah,
telling everybody because they shouldn't be doing
yeah,
it again, or at least be informed. And C, now I'm going to live my life on my terms, how I am to the fullest. And I think that's just what you can do because there's people that unfortunately get harmed like this in all different avenues, right? It's like, and I
yeah,
know you said you had some guilt mentally going through it because it's something that you went and got to. And I think when you're trying to said that when you're explaining it to people, you had some like form of guilt because then you'd be like, oh, it's because of Botox, right? But it's just like, please don't, because nobody knows this. Like, unless we're in the and find the hashtag, find the group, like people don't know this. I'm
yeah,
constantly fighting people, not fighting people, but like arguing with people in my DMs about it being like rare. And I was like, cool. So in 20 episodes, I've had 6 girls. So and the list is still going, y'all. Like if you think 6 is the last one, unfortunately it's not. She's just the first one of this season. And it just blows my mind that but that being said, that's 6 people now since I've been talking about this in 4 years that have want to come to talk about their story. So
that's the
the,
thing, isn't it? It's the
it's
prejudice
improving.
because when people asked what was wrong with me, and it's like, oh, I've got botulism, and they're like, how have you got that? I had Botox, and there is an instant stigma attached to it. So I think in the early days, before I started talking about it and did that live with Gretch, I'm scared of being trolled. I don't want my daughter reading things online about me, and I know how vicious and toxic people can be in the comments and so judgmental, and we should never have had it in the first place, and it's like, well, that's not helping. So
Thanks.
I yeah, I know that now, thanks. But so I think I hid away from it because I didn't want to be judged, and people can be really, really judgmental. So I was like, no, I'm not going to talk about it, and I'm just going to sweep it under the carpet and let it all go away. But actually, as I've got through that, I'm like, no, people do need to know. And, of any age, whether they are in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it just takes one injection in the wrong place into a nerve for too much to be injected, for somebody to not know how they're going to react to it if they've never had it before. This could potentially happen to somebody else. And if by the people who have been injured talking about it, it saves one person, then, our work here is done.
And it does. Like I said, you guys have all saved me, whether that was not your specific story. Like, obviously, it just, every single one just reiterates, and it also pushes me to keep being an advocate for it, right? I
Yeah.
don't have the experience, but I have a platform and I like to talk. So why not, right? Like, do that. And I will always back you guys because, again, I talk about so many different topics and so many things where people have been injured. And sometimes some people don't like the things I talk about because they love that thing, or it's their safety. And I
Yeah.
get that. And I think at the end of the day, all we want to do is plant a little seed of education
That's
where
it.
you are aware of where you can go to talk, where you
Yeah.
know you're safe to ask the questions without being gaslit, where you're going to find people that you're probably going to go to their group and they're going to tell you, sorry, babe, it's time. But we're all going to be here for you. You're not crazy. Like, and it's not like it's this echo chamber of like, we're all agreeing together. Like, these are real life people experiences, and all of you can relay it back. All of you, no, I was healthy. I never react from everything. So it's like, come on, guys. At what point? I understand that the science might not be there, but who's funding that? Who's going to fund to figure that out? Nobody. I'm sorry. The beauty industry, surgery, we see it with breast implant illness, all those kind of things. Like, they're not going to pay for that. Unfortunately, they're not going to pay for those studies. So instead of that, can you not look at all these women and go, well, there's something here, and at
Yeah.
least I know, so that if I continue to do it, I know where to go. I know for the signs, right? Because yours
That's
is
it.
like a very extreme. There's people that are suffering too with just like not I'm saying not mild, but like debilitating ones, but not to the point we're going to die too. And they write it off going, oh, it's anxiety, it's my depression,
Yeah,
it's my immune disease or autoimmune disease. And it's like, it also could be the Botox. It could.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
could.
Yeah,
And I know it's
absolutely.
scary.
And thank you for for using your platform to educate people, because that's that's the really important, that the message gets out there. And if people choose then to continue, that's absolutely your choice, but at least they're aware of the potential risks of that. So I really appreciate you doing what you do as well, and allowing people like me to talk about it and hopefully educate.
Yes, and I that's all I ever wanted to do because it's like I can't help you heal physically and I can't take your experience away, but I can try and help you heal by helping others because that's kind of how I've always been, right? Like I had one of those things too where I got really sick off of birth control and everyone's like, "Well, it couldn't be your birth control." I'm like, I'm a healthy 16-year-old. What do you mean? Like, no. And I didn't, I felt like I got left. Like, no one asked me about my life. Like, I had bad period cramps. So it's like, go on birth control at 16. And it's like, okay. And then that just sent me through this whole spiral. And I was, people were like, well, it's birth control. Like, that's just your, I'm like, no, if you actually dive into like the history of birth control, it's not great. And there's
Yeah,
a lot of stuff that's not great. And it's like listed as a carcinogen in some countries, like, but we don't talk about that because it's inconvenient and no one wants to hear it because it's sexier to be on birth control. It's, we were really pushed that you having a child is the worst thing in the world, which yes, like I'm sure not unexpected ones aren't always great, but it's just these narratives that confuse us. And so
yeah,
I just want to be the other side of that narrative, being like, well, guys, in real life, this is what we're seeing. These people are having this experience, and I'm about bodily autonomy. You want to do what you want. I was like, I'm through that with everything. Like during the pandemic and all that, I just want people to have informed consent and choose what's best for your body because you don't know what I do on my spare time. You don't know if I'm taking like 17 different medications to be like, oh yeah, Brenda, you could take this one. You don't know that, right? Like we just don't know what everyone's doing. So I think it's very respectful to allow people to choose for themselves. However, there's also lacking informed consent, and I want to bring it back. You signed a consent form. You didn't have informed consent. No one sat down and said, do you understand the mechanism in your body? Do you
yeah,
understand the risks? Do you understand that this is what's physically, scientifically happening to you? That is informed consent. Not sign this paper with basic generic, even if it said you could get Botox poisoning. You weren't explained that. You shouldn't be expected to understand scientific terms when you go get a procedure. That's just my honest opinion. Is that fair to say? Is that how you feel?
absolutely. I think, as I said earlier, if it had been explained to me in explicit terms exactly what the potential outcome would be, then yes, I'm pretty sure I'd question ever having, I mean, or maybe the amount that I had. I don't, it's
Yeah.
very difficult. Hindsight's a
So
great
hard.
friend. But as I say, in those 25 years, I don't think it was ever explicitly explained to me.
Yeah.
And that's important. And also, I think that the pharmaceutical companies have a responsibility in all of this as well, because they're the ones who are peddling it, right? They're the ones who are making it ridiculously cheap. And, should they, from, I don't know, I know that they're not very ethical, but this is what seems to be lacking, is ethics around this. And I think there needs to be more work done around the ethical side of it.
Yeah, yeah, and same with bedside manners. I think injectors and physicians across the board, just because you don't know, I think we can all agree science is changing all the time.
Yeah,
Medical stuff is changing. Studies are coming out. It is understandable that you don't know everything. But what's not understandable is dismissing and saying it possibly can't
yeah,
be when it absolutely can be. And that's my issue. And then we'll get, well, you're not educated. Cool. I know I'm not formally educated, but I do this cool thing on the side where I talk to people a lot and I hear their experiences. And I would imagine like in a clinical study, you do the same thing, right? Right. You have people and you talk about, it's just maybe a different form. And I'm not saying correlation is causation. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there's something, and just knowing is a good thing, so that if
yeah,
something happens, you're not alone because all of you are in the same thing. And luckily you had a person saying, hey, I know what this is, go here. Imagine if you didn't, how alone. And it sounds like you, the NHS, I believe you said it was, it's so
yeah.
beautiful that they actually provide all that extra care where they don't do that over here.
No, no.
They
And
gaslight you and leave you. So like that's
yeah,
beautiful. Like congratulations UK, and I hope that they keep pushing, and I hope there's some way that individuals like yourself can band together and start like moving that forward, get that into like your legislation and stuff like that, which is, and the only way that happens is by talking about it. So it is my absolute honor to do that. Like I said at the beginning, it sucks that it's like, oh, we get to connect over the fact that you almost died, but it's now with like cheerleaders in each other's lives forever to move this
Absolutely.
like goal forward of educating people. And it's no hate, no shade to anybody that gets it, injects it, has gaslit in the past, because y'all, I'm not perfect. I'm sure I know that I have made mistakes. I know that I have been given bad information and given it. Like, I know I'm not perfect, so I don't expect anybody else around me or in the world to be perfect. But there is something to be said that people just completely ignore it or put it down or shame it in the comment section. But I'm so glad that you feel strong enough in the conviction of it that it's like, those people don't matter, because at the end of the day, we're just giving them a mirror. They don't want to hear that, unfortunately, but it might piss them off enough to keep that nugget. Or my favorite is when you piss people off enough, they go to research it and they're like, oh shit.
Oh yeah, there is something in this. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
like you tell me that you go that Facebook group and listen to the 45
Yeah.
plus thousand people in there that are daily, you guys, daily talking about their experiences. You cannot ignore that. Is that how you felt when you went in there? You're just like, yeah, validation here. Look at all these people saying this. And it's not just women. There's men.
Exactly. I was like, where have all these people come from? Because this is, I'd never even heard of it. My doctors had never even heard of it. The consultants in the hospital had never even heard of it. So, it was like, oh my gosh, it was this underworld of people who were going through all of this. And I was just so overwhelmed that so many people have experienced it. And yet I'd never come across it. I mean, I suppose you don't until it happens to you. But given how many people have Botox, and it's a lot, then you'd think it would be a little bit more talked about. And I think this is what's important as well for people who do choose to continue to have it. Know what the symptoms are. And if you can recognize those symptoms, I understand it might be different in the United States, that they're just not as educated. But here in the UK, I would really hope that if people who are getting injected, and this should really be part of the process, that if you experience these symptoms, you need to seek medical help quickly. But that's never, if you had a little checklist at the end of your consultation and the end of your appointment, if this happens to you, go see a doctor, go see, go to A&E.
Because people still get procedures all the time, right? Like you go through anesthesia, you get medicines that are like, if you're experiencing this, that, and the other, go to the doctor. Like that's like just that. Like I'm not a person, like obviously I wish the whole beauty industry to a point would dissolve and go away and we'd all just be happy hippies doing whatever, but that's not realistic and that's fine. I just want people to know and have the conversations and go, hey, because people are going to freaking do it anyway. Like I am aware of that and that's all good. I don't want you to stop. I just want you to, on that, when you're done, are you doing it for the right reasons mentally? Like, are we getting addictions? Are we getting a little, like, what are you mentally doing here? Which that doesn't happen. And then after the fact, if this happens, does it matter? And so many people will go, well, it didn't happen right away. You were in the hospital about 10 days after you got your injections from that it progressed. That's because poisoning, it's not going to drop you. You're not going to get Botox and walk out and like drop. Some people, it went really fast depending on where you inject it, how fast it moves, how fast it goes into your brain. That's a whole other thing, so but at the end of the day, it could also be a slow burn where it's slowly poisoning you and it's slowly dripping and going through your system, which yours did, right? It was slowly getting through your body, right? So this is an important part of your body. There's a lot of things happening in here.
Going on, and I really realistically should have gone to the doctor sooner. And it was on a weekend and things like that, and again I just didn't put two and two together. So I shouldn't have left it as long as I did, but because of my lack of knowledge, and you just don't do, you just don't know. So
could have, should have, right? Like and yeah. And even if you did get told that, it might not be in the moment of time where you're thinking that, right? Like maybe even if it's just a thought or you heard like, oh, someone, like unless you're educated and understand, like when Gretch goes through in a couple of my past episodes, the actual scientific mechanism of like, no, it doesn't just freeze your muscles. It actually stops a actual chemical function. I can't say it.
Your central nervous system, it goes into there, doesn't it? And then start.
See, that's why we need Gretch on the show. I'm not sciencey, but that's why it was nice to have her on the show, because I was like, ooh, this is such a good way, because she used to be a science teacher. That's her bread and butter. So I was like, oh yeah, people can't fight me here. I got me a scientist on the show, right? Like it's not, and we shouldn't be arguing people with experiences anyway. But again, I think it's just because that's a very scary mirror. If it's something that Botox is something you really love, which is, like, had you heard about it first and before that, like, I'm sure you probably would have had to work through some of that, like, okay, well, is it really that bad? Like, I'm not saying you, but you know what I mean? Like, but when you go through it, it's like, it's a hard no after that. So, but like, at least having that information, that's all we're doing here. And I think the conversation is changing. And I'm just so grateful for you guys for helping me and coming on and sharing your experiences. Before we go today though, is there any advice you give? I'm going to go for more people of like that are going through it with Botox illness and injury. You're on the other side of it. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, just, don't blame yourself. I think that is something that people do suffer with is internal blame. So don't blame yourself and just stay strong. There's a lot of support out there from women who have gone through very similar, and we're there to hold each other up and, hopefully keep fighting. If you're not getting the answers and the support that you need from the medical profession, keep fighting and advocating and yeah, reach out for support. We're here to help you, and we'll do that in any way that we can.
Yes, absolutely. And are you okay with people reaching out to you on social media if they need to go through it?
Absolutely, by
Do you
all
want to
means.
share? Yeah. Do you want to share your handle?
Yeah, so it's Victoria_loves_travel.
Perfect. And obviously, I'll tag you on everything, but sometimes people just watch it like on Apple or Spotify, and I can't tag people. So I'll make sure I put that in the comments as well. But this is just so amazing, Victoria. I'm so happy that your story is now like you're healed and you went through it like again, but your story was just like do poof, and like it really took a deep dive, and it wasn't. Yeah. I'm not saying any other symptoms aren't bad, but like you were like nearly close to your deathbed.
Extreme. Yeah, I was extreme.
Yeah, and so it's just really happy that you're coming out the other side, and not only like obviously you're a little bit upset and mad, but you're really looking at the positives of like, I'm going forward with my life. I want to help other people, be there for their recovery, never do this again, and just live my life to the fullest. And again, it's so hard because it's like, I'm not happy you went through that, but I'm happy that you're on the other side and you found that purpose and empowerment. And that's all we can always hope for everything. And again, to your point, guilt, like we all make mistakes. Like we can get in a car and get in a car accident and not have that intention, right? Like, so anybody shaming others for making those choices, it's like, cool. Are you perfect? Like, have you, I would hope that if I got in a car accident and I went to the hospital, people wouldn't be like, oh, you got in a car. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, let's stop doing that and just come together to have more understanding. But is there anything that we missed about your story or anything that you want to add today? Or did we cover it in a pretty good?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Good. Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much again. And guys, don't forget to follow Victoria and make sure to reach out to her if you're having issues with Botox or have any more questions. Again, go watch her live with Gretch. They get more scientific than I can possibly get to here. But I really appreciate you guys for being around and listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening. I truly appreciate the support. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, please follow the Be Real Babe podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Rumble. You can also find me at the Be Real Babe podcast on TikTok and Instagram. Until next time, guys. Bye!